So we have our brother George Bell is suing New York City and 8 police officers after he spent nearly a quarter of a century in prison and faced the death penalty for a crime he did not commit. So Bell was convicted in December 1996 for the slaying of an off-duty police officer and a business owner of a check cashing store. So a capital murder offense that Bell confessed to when he was arrested after the killings. They say, however, new evidence in the case points to other suspects, and Bell's conviction was overturned in 2021. This happens to black men so many times. Black men lead the country in exonerations. The second wicked system. They said now Bell is asking to be compensated for at least $50 million for the near quarter century that he was behind bars for a definite mistake. That's what he said it is. It's not a mistake. It was intentional. So there was political pressure to find a culprit in the slaying of the police officer, the officer Charles Davis, who worked security at a Queens check cashing store owned by Ira Mike Epstein. Now they said that former Mayor Rudolph Giuliani and police officials said they would not rest until they solved the double homicide. Now Giuliani vowed and said to find those responsible for the December 21st murder by Christmas. Now how could you guarantee that? Can't guarantee that, but Bell's attorney Richard Emery said Giuliani was pandering to tabloids and to the communities that thought he would, back him up and elect him. So the New York Daily News ran a front page story when Bell was apprehended, just 19 years old at the time. The paper caught the teenager in tears at the police station and labeled him the crybaby cop killer. It said the Daily News also ran a full page editorial calling for Bell to be executed. And New York Post referred to the zoomed in photo of Bell as the face of evil. Now it said the New York Times, as they reported, an intensive sweep throughout northwestern Queens with thousands of cars stopped, thousands of summonses issued, and hundreds of suspects questioned. Now, see, at that time period, that was before we showed up on the scene, before the time of, social media, etc. Today, the white media can't just bombard somebody without no pushback anymore. And they can't stand it. Now, Bell and 2 other black men were arrested for the crime on December 26, 1996. Man, I was a junior in high school that year. Even though, they said, members of the Speed Stick is a gang had been wanted for committing similar robberies. The NYPD posted wanted posters that described the suspects as 3 black men, about 5'11", 6'3", and weighing 180, 185, and 190 pounds respectively. It said Bell was 5'10", weighing 150 pounds, and had no criminal record. They say he was employed as a stocker at Old Navy. They said Bell's co-defendants, Gary Johnson, 22 at the time, also had no criminal record. Rohan Bolt was the 35-year-old owner of a local Caribbean restaurant who had been charged with minor marijuana-related violations years before his arrest for the double murder. They said the suit alleged. They say he had never met Bell before then. They said NYPD detectives narrowed in on Bell and say as a suspect after he was implicated in the crimes by a man known to authorities as a drug dealer. Oh, okay. You do know that the police allow these drug dealers and these different Pookie and Ray Rays in the neighborhood to cause calamity. They sit up there and send them out to do crimes, and then you notice they go to jail and they always back out. You notice that? You see a dude get arrested 100 times and he always back out. Like, why is he back out? Because they want him out. It goes back to the Nipsey Hussle situation, right? That dude that killed Nipsey Hussle, he turns himself in at a freaking mental health facility. What hardcore thug do something like that unless he was told to do that? And then on his first court date, Christopher Darden shows up for a so-called hardcore Crip. Let you know right there. But see, today we can call that out. Back in 1996, we didn't have the internet like that. The internet was just kind of getting started with AOL and all that back then with dial-up. But the old today is different. Now, they said Bell's attorney said the man who accused him of was an acquaintance. He knew his girlfriend had slept with Bell. It said police arrested John Bigway, for selling marijuana 2 days before Christmas while he was on probation for robbery and assault charges, facing deportation to Haiti and under pressure by detectives over 2 days of interrogation. Bigway told them Bell and Johnson asked them for his help with the crime. Oh, let me stop right there. The immigrants, see, he will get deported and he sit up there and lied on black men, black American men. just so he wouldn't get deported. So you sell these two brothers down the river, this black immigrant. See, we calling that stuff out today. Back in that time period, things like that was going on. And they don't like when they being called out. I'm not saying all black immigrants are bad people. No, they're not. I got a lot of black immigrant people that watch our show. I'm cool with them. They my brothers. They my sisters. But we have immigrants that's in this country that will cut our throats for white supremacy. And that what that dude did. Now, they said during a 6-hour ride with one of the detectives, Big Way account of the story changed several times and said with or without his involvement. And said according to the lawsuit, Bell was sick and had just taken NyQuil before he had got a phone call from Big Way he said that tricked him into showing up at a police precinct to help a friend who supposedly been arrested. Now, if somebody call you, hey man, come up here to the police station. So-and-so been arrested. I'm like, man, yeah, y'all better call an attorney or bail bondsman. I ain't got nothing to do with that. That was you tell them, because it could be a trick. And so when Bill showed up, it said he was arrested himself and moved to another precinct where his lawyers say he was interrogated by detectives and broke down after several hours of being threatened and beaten by the race soldiers. It said Detective Louis Pia said allegedly he yanked one of Bell's braids and said tearing his hair from his scalp. Pia, who was named in the suit, told Bell that he would put him in the effing hospital and pressed a hockey stick up to his neck and threatened to use his head as a hockey puck. He says, isn't this police brutality? That's what he told them. And they told him, no, this is how we get things done. Now you wonder why black folks will have no love for the police. They say the detectives didn't read Bell his Miranda rights and forced him to sign a paper waiving them. They denied his request for an attorney and his mother, who had shown up at the precinct when he was arrested, only to be told by the officers on the scene Bell was not there. And they didn't know where he was. Now, Emory believes Bell's conviction was motivated by racism. You think? Seriously, everything in this country is motivated by racism. That's why I love it when I'm out the country. Now, they said there was no physical evidence that connected Bell to the crime, and said a witness who saw the suspects fleeing the scene and a jailhouse informant testified against Bell said the witnesses originally told detectives he could not provide a sketch of the person he saw because it could have been anybody and he didn't want to pick the wrong person. The lawsuit also alleged that the jailhouse informant relayed details that were already reported by the media, including erroneous reports, and he had also offered a chance to evade deportation. It's a lawsuit accuses prosecutors of withholding evidence that could have pointed to Bell's innocence, including proof that the NYPD had suspected the Speed Stick gang of the crimes. One of the members also bragged about the robbery. Bell's public defender had made several unsuccessful attempts to obtain the evidence. Assistant district attorneys, in an apparently unconstitutional violation of procedure, denied the evidence existed even after the NYPD officials told the media the gang was connected to it in May of 1997. Now, a jury convicted Bell of second-degree murder in June of 1999. He escaped the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And said the other two men received 50 years each. And said the judge was vacated. And said the three men's convictions in March 2021. And said prosecutors' handling of the case leads to distinct impression that the suppression of the exonerated information was not isolated instance of misconduct, but was a larger pattern of behavior that was calculated to deprive defendants of fair trials, which is particularly egregious, given that the death penalty was being sought against 19-year-old George Bell. This is what the things they will do to black people, and still doing to black people to this day, folks. And you see this as time after time, and you know the profile, poor black people. That's what they go after. You notice they don't go after black people that got money, because black people got money to fight. Now, it said the district attorney's office dropped all the charges against Bell 3 months later, and two assistant district attorneys who worked Bell's case, Brad Leventhal and Charles Testagrossa, have since resigned. Bell's attorney said they should have been disbarred, suspended, and otherwise disciplined for their misconduct. In addition to $50 million, Bell is suing for punitive damages to determine at trial. Like I said, this is what they do to black men. This system is completely wicked, and it targets black men. Definitely black people, but for sure black men. This is how they get their raises. This is how they get their promotions. Arrest. You understand? So who can we pin crimes on that they didn't even commit? Black men. Because society don't care nothing about black men, and make sure these black men are poor black men. Be careful what kind of black person you pick. Make sure they're poor, because if they actually have some sort of money behind them, they can get attorneys, they can expose us, they can do this. I've been noticing that pattern for the past 10 years that I've been covering news. It's the same pattern. Go to a black community who's poor and target them. And that's where you populate. That's why reparations is important, because when you have money to defend yourself, it puts you out of the clutches like that. They're always going to target black men because we are the most hated in America, period. But y'all, let me know what y'all think about this particular story. This can happen to any, brother that's out there. He just, and the thing is, they let you out of jail, 20 some odd years of your life gone. You can't get that back. You can't get a day back of that. Oh, well, sorry about that. We'll drop the charges, And even if they give you $50 million, let's say they give it to you, it will never get those days back. And that's like I say, these people that do this stuff, they got to burn in hell. They got to burn, to just forever. They got to burn for all eternity.